After I used the child to secure my position, Vincent was thoroughly disgusted with me. He imprisoned me and the child on Whispering Pines Island under his name, until his enemies landed on the island for malicious revenge, and I accidentally fell into the water. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the age of 18. At that time, I was just the adopted daughter of the Sterling family. So, I turned over a new leaf. I no longer coveted the Sterling family's wealth and glory, and avoided all contact with Vincent. Once again, when I didn't return to Sterling Manor for dinner on the weekend, Vincent drove his luxury car to the gates of Oakmont University to block my way. Avoiding me? Just as I was about to answer, a college boy popped up from behind and wrapped his arm around me. The next second, I heard him whisper in my ear, "Mom, do you want me to help you piss off Dad?" Me? Son, how did you time travel here too? My brain instantly crashed. I stared blankly at the college boy next to me. Handsome. Unreasonably, ruggedly handsome. My last memory of Tyler was clearly a tender, childish face. But the elegant man in front of me looked to be about 17 or 18 years old no matter how you looked at him. The familiar little dumpling in my memory had almost completely changed his appearance. But if you look closely, you can still see that his eyes and brows resemble mine. But his overall bone structure was more like Vincent's, sharp and aggressive. Tyler looked at me and blinked his eyes. He couldn't help but chuckle. "Mom, Dad is watching?" Only then did I suddenly notice that Vincent's expression had turned somewhat gloomy. Tyler spoke very softly. Only the two of us could hear it. "This old man wasn't as handsome as me when he was young. Mom is still better looking." I hadn't recovered my senses yet, but Vincent was already walking towards the two of us. "Lily, Mom told you to come home for dinner." I turned my head and met Vincent's bottomless eyes. Before I could speak, the young voice said, "Sorry, old sir. She has an appointment." I stood close. I heard Tyler's words very clearly. I guessed he originally wanted to call him old man, but he felt it was inappropriate and changed it to sir. But when it came out, it became old sir. It was even more impolite. Not to mention Vincent is only 5 years older than me, just 23. He couldn't be called an old man by any means. It was hard not to suspect that Tyler did it on purpose. Sure enough, the veins on Vincent's forehead throbbed. I had to bite the bullet and explain. "I have things to do at school. I will definitely go home for dinner next time." Tyler's face immediately dropped. He pulled my hand. Let's go. Ignore him. I'm starving to death." Hearing that my son was hungry, I lost all desire to even humor Vincent. Leaving behind the sentence, "I'm leaving first," I kept up with Tyler's pace. I turned around too fast. So much so that I didn't see Vincent's expression was thunderous. I went to the campus food truck park near the school and bought one of every kind of food. Tyler didn't have the airs of being spoiled at all. He just sat directly on a small stool and started eating. He had just told me that he suddenly time-traveled back from the future. I stared at the teenager wolfing down his food across from me. I was in a daze for a moment. Is this what Tyler looks like grown up? In my previous life, I didn't have the chance to see him as an adult at all, even though a stormy sea had already risen in my heart. But after the surge, there was more relief. Tyler didn't know when he stopped. He handed over a tissue with a worried look. "Mom, don't cry." I quickly wiped my eyes with my fingertips. Even knowing the person across from me was my son, it was still inevitably a bit unnatural. After all, who could suddenly accept a 17 or 18-year-old son being called mom by a peer? Who could accept it without changing their expression? People who didn't know would think it was some twisted roleplay between a young couple. So I didn't let Tyler call me Mom. He seemed a bit sad, his brows furrowing. "Then what should I call you?" I thought about it. "Lily is fine. It sounds young." Tyler muttered in dissatisfaction. "Mom is already very young." After I glared at him, he reluctantly called out, "Lily." After eating, it was already dark. Tyler insisted on wandering around Oakmont University. I took him to avoid the guards and wandered around the field circle by circle. He was chattering away, murmuring all the time, So this is Mom's university, this is Mom's dorm, I interrupted, unable to bear it anymore. Finally having the chance to ask what I wanted to ask. In the previous life, how did your dad, Vincent, die? Tyler suddenly fell silent. I looked over in confusion, but he just shrugged indifferently. It's not important. Birth, aging, illness, and death, it's all the same. I nodded. So he died of illness. However, as far as I knew, the Sterling family didn't have any hereditary diseases. They even had comprehensive health checkups every year. I didn't expect Vincent would also pass away from illness. I felt a wave of sorrow in my heart. But Tyler forcefully interrupted my thoughts. Mom, I've always wanted to know, why did you marry him? What? I was the adopted daughter of the Sterling family. I was adopted from an orphanage. The selection criteria were also very simple. Pretty, obedient, and tactful. From the year I was chosen at 10 years old, my life changed from then on. The Sterling family has a pair of twins. The Vincent, and the younger brother, Victor. The two looked very similar, but their personalities were vastly different. Vincent was steady and reticent. Victor was active and sociable, even though they had exactly the same faces. I somehow fell for Vincent while interacting with them. The year I realized my feelings, I was only 15. The first time I gathered the courage to hold Vincent's hand was in the movie theater. When my fingertips touched his palm, my heart fluttered. But Vincent suddenly pulled back. He looked straight at me. I was startled. While my mind went blank, I blurted out, I got the wrong person. It was obvious who I mistook him for. After all, even the nanny often mixed up Vincent and Victor. The backs and silhouettes of the two people were almost exactly the same. Vincent didn't speak, just quietly looked at me for 2 seconds, and said lightly, "He's on the left." I thought such a huge matter had been gently brushed aside. This gave me a glimmer of false hope. So since there was a first time, there was a second time. It was probably the year I graduated from high school. Vincent and Victor joined the company for training. The two were often not at home. That night, I had just finished taking a shower and went downstairs to find water. I immediately recognized the dark figure in front of the floor-to-ceiling window as Vincent. Darkness amplifies all hidden thoughts. I walked over quietly and hugged Vincent from behind, skin against skin. I could feel all the muscles in his body tense up. I deliberately tightened my arms and softly asked what was in my heart. "I missed you so much. Have you been busy lately?" Vincent was silent for a few seconds. Then he lightly pulled my arms away. "Lily, you've got the wrong person. Victor will be back in 5 minutes." It would be a lie to say I wasn't disappointed, but I could only pretend to be embarrassed and apologize in a panic. "Sorry, Vincent. The lights weren't on. I couldn't see clearly." Vincent didn't speak and turned to go upstairs. I stared at his back, his body heat still lingering on me. I secretly thought in my heart, when I get a little older, I must confess to him. However, on my 19th birthday, I accidentally overheard my parents' conversation. They said my biological parents from the trailer park were looking for me. My originally high spirits instantly plummeted. Am I going to be kicked out of the Sterling family? Going from luxury to frugality is very hard. A powerful sense of abandonment swept through my whole body. And this feeling reached its peak when I saw the female companion next to Vincent with my own eyes. He came to attend my birthday banquet, but brought another woman. I heard the guests say that it seemed Vincent was going into a strategic marriage. I felt like I had fallen into an ice cavern. My secret crush had been forcibly brought to an end before it even yielded a result. Maybe it was because I had been raised too spoiled by my parents and the two brothers. Or maybe I was afraid of being abandoned by the Sterling family. In a moment of hot-headedness, I handed Vincent a spiked glass of wine. The following events progressed very smoothly. I got my wish, but Vincent's first sentence was, "You got the wrong person again?" I had imagined he would be angry, self-blaming, or guilty. Even possibly say, with a serious face, that he would take responsibility for me. But I never expected that he would actually say this. Vincent, he seemed to truly not like me at all. My affection, to him, seemed to just be a burden. Holding back my precarious tears, I nodded. "I'm sorry, Vincent. Vincent's face was tight, his chest heaving violently. I was too afraid of this kind of Vincent. I used the excuse of traveling to hide from him for a month. It was only the Sterling family's annual health checkup that called me back. The test results shocked the whole family. I was pregnant. My parents looked astonished and asked whose it was. I just stared at Vincent. Vincent looked at me with deep eyes. We looked at each other in silence. But the others had already understood. Just like that, we had a shotgun marriage. I didn't explain that much in detail to Tyler. He also sensed that I didn't want to talk about it. He just suddenly held my hand, his tone serious. Mom, no matter the reason, at least now you and Dad aren't married yet. You can choose the lifestyle you like once more. My breath caught, and the words I wanted to say got stuck in my throat. I thought he would ask me to be with Vincent, but I didn't expect him to say this. I said blankly, "In that case, you won't be able to be born." He smiled indifferently. "I'm not important. Mom is what's important. Even if I'm not born, I will always accompany you in the form of an egg. I will always be Mom's child, just born at a different time." I lowered my head. My mind flashed with the day-after-day life of being imprisoned on the island. Every day looking forward to Vincent's arrival, longing for a family reunion. But no matter what I did, I couldn't warm Vincent's heart. He only cared about the child, not me. I let out a bitter laugh. Burying my head, I muttered, "Never again. I will never again ask for things that don't belong to me. Whether it's Vincent, or the wealth and glory of the Sterling family. Nothing truly belongs to me. Only experiences and feelings uniquely belong to me. In this life, I only pray for peace and smoothness." Yesterday, I told Vincent I would go home for dinner next time. But next time came too quickly. When I saw the message Vincent sent, I was just about to go eat with Tyler. "At your university gate, Mom says come home for dinner." Since the words were spoken, I had to agree. When Tyler learned that I had to return to Sterling Manor again, he called in a fit of anger. I listened to him calling him old man one bite at a time. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, "Why do I feel like you have such huge hostility towards Vincent? Did he abuse you?" Tyler suddenly paused. After a good while, he said again, "No, anyway, he isn't good enough for you. Just eat and leave quickly." I smilingly agreed. Walking out of the university gates, sure enough, I saw Vincent standing by the car in his suit and leather shoes. He swept his gaze over my back, not knowing what he was looking at. When he spoke, his tone was as steady as ever. "Tomorrow is the weekend. Won't you stay at home for 2 days?" My back tensed, feeling a bit regretful. Back then, I applied to a university close to home because of Vincent. Who would have thought I could be reborn back to my freshman year? If I had known this, I would have just run far away. "I'm not staying. I have things to do at school." "Vincent, what things?" Of course, it was keeping my son company. But it was hard for me to say, so I casually told a lie to brush it off. Vincent's tone was unhurried as he retorted, "Is that so? I thought you met a new friend and were having too much fun to come home." As he spoke, he reached out to open the door for me. I pointed to the back seat. "It's fine. I can just sit in the back." Vincent turned his head to look at me. Clearly, he didn't say anything, but I inexplicably felt a wave of pressure.
"All right."
The shadows of my past life were still too deep. I honestly sat in the passenger seat, speechless all the way. But for some reason, I always felt my profile being watched from time to time. I turned to look, but could only see Vincent's cold profile. When we arrived at Sterling Manor, the food had already been brought to the table. I sat down next to Victor. He suddenly pinched my cheek. "Why have you lost so much weight?" Mom scolded playfully. "Come home a few more times and you'll gain it back." Victor narrowed his eyes, his tone old manna. "Lily, you must have met a lot of new friends in college, right?" As his voice fell, the gazes of several people at the dining table turned to me. I gave a dry laugh. Vincent, who rarely spoke, actually chipped in. "Yesterday when I went to pick up Lily, I indeed saw a little boy. Are you too close?" I remained silent. My own son. Could we not be close? I lowered my head, deciding just to keep my mouth shut. Who knew that Victor, who was best at reading the room, had no intention of letting me off. He slightly widened his eyes and leaned closer to me. "There really is someone? Why didn't you tell me, Lily? You never used to hide anything from me." Seeing that Victor was about to start rambling again, my dad spoke up to pause the battlefield. All right, Lily is grown up now. Isn't it normal for her to know a few male classmates? As for you two, instead of helping your sister check them out, why are you interrogating her?" When my dad spoke, he always had an imposing authority. I don't know which sentence poked Victor. He actually quieted down. Since the topic had reached this point, my dad casually mentioned, "By the way, Vincent, about Victoria Kensington I mentioned to you last week. How are you two chatting?" Victoria Kensington, the female companion Vincent brought to my birthday in my previous life. So, they knew each other this early on? I slightly lifted my eyelids, but accidentally met a gaze. Vincent was currently watching me. His gaze was deep and indifferent, yet carried a cryptic meaning. My body stiffened, almost dropping my chopsticks. But he lightly looked away. "No rush." My dad frowned. "Why no rush? You should settle down early. Next is Victor, and after that is Lily." Victor said dissatisfiedly, "It's fine if my brother rushes a bit, but what is Lily rushing for?" After saying that, he secretly tugged at the corner of my clothes. I hurriedly echoed, "That's right, Dad. Vincent is young and promising. It's good to get married early. I also really want to have a sister-in-law." Vincent suddenly put down his chopsticks. His gaze looked straight at me. His tone was grim. "You want a sister-in-law? Isn't it the same if Victor finds you one?" "Oh, right." I was just about to take the opportunity to urge Victor again, when my mom came out to smooth things over. "All right, none of you three can run away." After saying that, she looked at me with a gentle smile. "Lily, lately a few of your aunts have been asking me about you. How about Mom takes you to interact with those boys tomorrow?" I froze. The next second, I heard two voices simultaneously. No. My mom furrowed her brow and looked at the two sons. "The bystanders are more anxious than the players. You can all find wives. What's wrong with me marrying Lily off into our family?" Victor seemed to be holding his breath. Vincent's gaze swept over him, then fixed on me. He parted his lips. Before he could speak, he was interrupted by Victor's voice. "Because I like Lily." "Me? Ah?" When his voice fell, the dining table fell into a dead silence. My dad frowned, the air pressure around him dropping. My mom looked astonished, looking at me, and then at Victor. I was about the same as her. The calmest among us was probably Vincent, but his knuckles holding the water glass turned white, as if suppressing something. Victor had always spoken without a filter at home. He turned a blind eye to our varying expressions. Instead, he directly took my hand. "Really, I've liked Lily for a very long time. The reason I haven't interacted with other girls is because I was waiting for Lily." My dad heavily put down his chopsticks, took a deep breath, and said angrily, "Lily is your sister." Victor stiffened his neck and retorted, "We aren't blood related. Why can't I like her?" My mom also reacted, her face red with anger. "Victor, is there something wrong with you? Out of everyone to like, you like Lily. Do you think I brought Lily back to be your child bride?" Seeing that the three were about to start fighting, I was just about to get up and break up the fight, when Vincent spoke up a step ahead of me. "Regarding this matter, shouldn't we respect Lily's thoughts?" For a moment, everyone's gaze fell back onto me. I sat as if on pins and needles, my mind a mess. Victor actually likes me? I had clearly always treated him like my own biological brother. How did it? Suddenly, I remembered that in my previous life, when everyone learned of my pregnancy, Victor directly beat Vincent up at the hospital. At that time, I just thought he was sticking up for me. But looking at it now, I lost my focus. It wasn't until Victor suddenly wrapped his arm around my shoulder that I snapped back to reality. "Lily, tell the truth. No matter what happens, I will be with you." His eyes shone with expectant light, but I looked at a loss. Tell what truth? Say that the one I liked was actually always Vincent? But he didn't like me. Saying it out loud would only start another argument. Moreover, in this life, I no longer wanted to have any ties with Vincent. Thinking of this, I swallowed my saliva and pulled out a well-behaved smile. Mom, Dad, I don't like Victor. Victor's hand gripping my shoulder suddenly tightened. I felt some pain the next second. Vincent directly pulled his hand away. Victor glared at him, only to get a nonchalant sentence from Vincent. Mind your boundaries, don't scare your sister. I didn't know if it was my illusion, but after hearing my words, my parents quietly let out a sigh of relief. My dad coldly snorted at Victor. No matter what thoughts you have towards Lily, as long as she hasn't nodded in agreement, take back those inappropriate ideas of yours. During the latter half of the dinner, Victor's face was a bit pale. I didn't dare to look at him again. Instead, Vincent's lips seemed to slightly curve upwards. He even reached for another slice of the steak. Is he happy? After dinner, my mom worried that I was in a bad mood because of Victor, so she took the initiative to ask me to stay at home for a night. Seeing my hesitant expression, she suddenly held my hand. Lily, tell Mom the truth. Is it because of Victor that you've been unwilling to come home lately and always avoiding us? I lowered my eyes and made no sound. It indeed was because of that. But the person was wrong. Not Victor, it was Vincent. After my rebirth, whenever I might run into Vincent, I would use excuses to get out of it. When I really couldn't avoid it, I could only bite the bullet and come back. Even if I came back, I wouldn't stay overnight, always using the excuse of school matters to head back before the dorms closed. I didn't expect Mom to see it all and think about it. She sighed heavily. Mom has never hidden the fact that you were adopted, not to treat you as an outsider, but to give you the right to choose to be yourself. I knew this. When I was first adopted, Mom asked me if I wanted to change my surname to Sterling or keep my original surname. I chose the latter, because back then I had seen many children who were adopted and then abandoned. Subconsciously, I felt that I would also be abandoned. So, I constantly used my original surname to remind myself. I just didn't expect the Sterling family to raise me for almost 10 years and truly treat the three of us equally. Victor was wrong. Mom won't defend him and won't let you suffer grievances. It's also Mom's fault for being too slow, only noticing that brat's intentions now. So, don't not come home. We are still a family, aren't we? I blinked and suddenly stepped forward to hug my mom. I'm sorry, I was only thinking about avoiding Vincent, but ignored that my parents would also be hurt by my coldness. Eventually, I chose to stay. Before going to bed, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Victor was standing outside with his head lowered. He lifted his face, and there was a handprint on his right cheek. My heart tightened. I heard Victor say, Lily, was my feeling wrong? So, you don't like me? I was actually a bit puzzled. I didn't know what behavior of mine had given Victor the wrong impression. I also wasn't clear on when our feelings had deteriorated. I really wanted to ask clearly, but then I thought of myself. Didn't I also fall in love with Vincent during our day-to-day interactions? If I were asked to state the trigger for liking him now, I wouldn't be able to say it either. Since that was the case, why should I make things difficult for Victor? So, I apologized in a muffled voice. I'm sorry, Victor. Victor suddenly smiled. He lifted my lowered head, feigning a relaxed tone. What's there to apologize for? Being liked is something that has absolutely no wrong in it. Even so, I still heard the tremble in his voice. All right, it's fine. If you don't like me, then you don't like me. Victor's eyes dimmed. I felt an inexplicable sense of guilt. In my previous life, he secretly came to the island, wanting to take me away. I was unwilling. And then he was discovered by Vincent. Later on, Victor never came again. After being rejected by me, what would he think? The phone in my pocket suddenly rang. I took out my phone, and my brows jumped when I clearly saw the caller. It was Tyler. I just remembered that I had promised him I would go back early. Seeing my hesitant and conflicted look, Victor narrowed his eyes. Who is it? Are you not picking up? Coincidentally, Vincent also came upstairs and paused his steps when he passed my door. His gaze shifted between me and Victor. I looked up, startled by the expressions of the two brothers. My fingertips trembled, and the call connected. The teenager's green, deep voice came out. I'm so bored at the Grand Continental Hotel. Can you come keep me company? The next second, I decisively clicked hang up.
Late night, a hotel, a man.
No matter how you listen to it, it doesn't sound right. I, of course, knew this was my biological son. But Vincent and Victor didn't know. I took a deep breath and looked up again. The two people's expressions could no longer be described as just ugly. Have you ever seen a ghost?
I have.
And two identical ones at that. Victor suddenly laughed. Lily, is this the new friend Vincent was talking about? I subconsciously looked at Vincent next to him. His lips were pressed into a straight line, making his already frightening face even more gloomy. Vincent swept his gaze over my nervous face and said to Victor, "You're scaring her. Go back to your room and apply ice first. Go on a business trip tomorrow to calm down for a few days before coming back." After saying that, he handed the ice pack in his hand to Victor. I was stunned. Is this an eviction order? Victor was a bit anxious. But brother, Lily, and that little brat. Vincent's hand rested on Victor's shoulder, forcefully turning his body towards his bedroom. Yeah, I'll handle it. You review the documents ahead of time tonight. Victor still wanted to say something, but meeting Vincent's unquestionable gaze, he had to keep quiet, only leaving behind a sentence. Talk to her nicely. She's afraid of you. Hearing the last few words, Vincent slightly furrowed his brows and shifted his gaze to watch me. Victor returned to his bedroom, leaving me and Vincent staring at each other wide-eyed. My phone was still vibrating continuously. It was Tyler constantly sending me messages. Vincent lightly swept his gaze over the phone and asked me, "Are we going to chat standing at the door?" I sighed, realizing this matter wasn't going to just pass. So, I had to let Vincent in. He followed behind me. I could clearly feel a gaze with a very strong presence on my back. My heart started to beat uncontrollably again. I clutched my chest to calm my heartbeat, comforting myself. It's okay. He hasn't been reborn. Just treat him as in Vincent. After thinking like this for a few seconds, I felt a bit discouraged. It wouldn't work. Since I was little, I had been both afraid of and fond of him. It had become a conditioned psychological reflex. When I was 12, Victor and I secretly ate ice cream and both got sick. Vincent, with a cold face, gave Victor a harsh dressing down. When it was my turn, I timidly tugged at the corner of his clothes. "Brother, I won't ever dare to do it again." In the end, Vincent just pinched my cheek. It hurt a little, but it was much better than being scolded. When I was 15, I stayed up late reading novels, resulting in ranking at the bottom in the final exams. Vincent went to the parent-teacher conference for me. On the way home, he held my exam paper and looked at it repeatedly, asking me what exactly I had been doing during this time. I said softly, "Reading books." Vincent pressed me on what books I was reading, saying he planned to take a look. I was frightened silly by the cold-faced man. I bit the bullet and opened the novel webpage. Vincent took the phone, and what he saw was a romance novel squeezed amidst a sea of bronzed, ripped torsos and provocative covers. A few seconds later, his face completely sank. The veins on his forehead throbbed wildly. "What on earth are you looking at every day?" I was yelled at until my eyes grew sore, and tears pattered down onto my legs. Vincent suddenly fell silent. In the quiet car, I heard him let out a nearly imperceptible sigh. He took out a tissue, cupped my face, and wiped away the tears. "It's my fault. I've been a bit busy lately and neglected you. It won't happen again." You see how good Vincent was. He actually thought it was because he neglected me that I picked up bad habits. I deliberately hugged him aggrievedly and buried my head in his neck. But in my heart, I was secretly rejoicing. He must have only caught sight of the glistening, bare skin, and overlooked that what I was reading was a pseudo-incest romance novel. When I was 17, Vincent had already taken over the company and was extremely busy. His innate sense of oppression made him seem much more mature and steady than Victor. A pair of sharp eyes seemed to be able to see through anything. I was afraid he would notice my little thoughts, but I was also afraid he wouldn't. I could only use the excuse of going to see Victor every time and then deliberately pass by Vincent's office. But I couldn't get a peek every time. That time when I went to the company, Vincent seemed to have gone out for dinner with business partners. I had to wait for him in the pantry. A few people, upon learning I was Vincent's sister, smilingly surrounded me and joked. The younger sister is really pretty, like a celebrity. God damn it, why is my younger sibling a guy? Little sister, call me Vincent too. Let me enjoy the feeling for a bit. Before I could speak, Vincent's emotionless voice sounded a step ahead. Do you guys not have your own younger sisters? The oppression and chill in his tone made those people's expressions change drastically. They looked at each other in dismay and quickly made excuses to slip away. It was also at that time that I realized Vincent seemed to be one way in front of me and completely different in front of outsiders. So I became conflicted. I liked the him at home, but was afraid of the him outside. Brother, do you want some water? I rubbed the hem of my clothes and asked him softly. Vincent was sitting on my single sofa, and hearing my voice, he lifted his eyes to look over. He ignored my polite words, and instead asked me in return, "Afraid of me?" I rolled my eyes inwardly. Nonsense. Not to mention, he imprisoned me on Whispering Pines Island in my previous life. Just based on the bloodline suppression from childhood, I was intimidated. Oh, that's not right either. We are not related by blood. I pulled my lips and forced a smile. A little bit. Victor is afraid of you too. Vincent watched me, his lips hooking up very slightly. Is that so? Afraid of me? Yet you still like me? Me? I was terribly shocked inwardly. What is Vincent saying? For a moment, I doubted whether I had misheard. But Vincent's voice replayed very clearly in my ear.
How did he know?
As if seeing through my doubts, Vincent suddenly got up and walked towards me. Starting from a while ago, you don't like going home, and even when you do, you don't talk to me much, let alone spend time alone with me. Rather than saying you hate this family, it's more accurate to say you are distancing yourself from me. But I recalled my actions over the past year, and there doesn't seem to be a single thing that would upset you. So what reason would you have to be cold towards me? Vincent walked closer and closer, and I subconsciously stepped back. But he suddenly grabbed my wrist and gently pulled me back. I was forced to meet Vincent's deep gaze. My breath caught. His gaze slowly moved down, landing on my lips, and then returned to looking into my eyes. He continued. Originally, I couldn't figure out the reason either, but tonight, I seem to have guessed it. A bad premonition faintly emerged in my heart. I really wanted to cover his mouth, so he couldn't keep talking. But Vincent firmly shackled my hands, giving me no chance to cover his mouth. He chuckled lightly, visibly pleased. At the dinner table, when you found out Victor liked you, your first reaction wasn't shyness or being at a loss, but astonishment, shock. You said you've never liked Victor, yet you've repeatedly mistaken me for Victor and acted intimately. Vincent paused. His warm breath sprayed onto my forehead. Lily, who is it that you really want to be close to, me or Victor? I was startled inwardly. I was so shaken by Vincent's insightfulness that I couldn't say a word. I forced myself to calm down, raised my head, and looked directly into Vincent's eyes. I smiled and said, Vincent, I was young and ignorant before, and I also did some things that made you misunderstand. But now I have grown up, I know who I am, and I also know what I should and shouldn't do. I just want to study hard and live my own life. Vincent's brows slightly furrowed, as if trying to discern the truth in my words. I took a deep breath. I've already made it clear with Victor. As for Vincent, I also hope you can just treat me as a younger sister. As the words fell, I saw Vincent's eyes darken for a moment. His lips pressed into a tight line, and he just stared at me unblinkingly. Suddenly, Tyler's call came in again. My hand holding the phone paused, and I frowned at Vincent. The implication was very obvious. Leave quickly. But Vincent remained motionless, only letting go of my wrist. He raised his hand and made a please go ahead gesture. His meaning was also very clear. Let me answer it, and right in front of his face. How could I answer this? I couldn't help but wonder. Was the Vincent from my previous life like this? Why did it feel like he was possessed by something? After the ringtone hung up, it rang again a few seconds later. I could already guess Tyler's anxious state of mind. It seemed not answering wasn't an option. I swiped to answer, and heard my son's whining voice. "Why did you hang up my phone? I was worried you would be wronged going back." I couldn't help but curve the corners of my mouth, but my smile fell after meeting Vincent's gaze. I coaxed my son expressionlessly. "No, it's too late. I'm staying home for a night." Tyler was silent for a few seconds, then hesitantly asked in a low voice, "Is there someone next to you?" I neither confirmed nor denied. The next second, Tyler started to mutate. "Honey, you're so bad. You clearly promised to come keep me company tonight. Is my youthful face no longer attractive to you? A man with no self-respect is just straight-up trash, honey. You must keep your eyes peeled and not be bewitched by that old geezer's sweet words." Me. "No matter who you are, get out of my son's body immediately." The air pressure around us suddenly dropped for some reason. I subconsciously looked up. A faint, almost imperceptible sneer hung on the corners of Vincent's lips. But that smile didn't reach his eyes in the slightest. It inexplicably made one's back tighten. I quickly gave a few perfunctory words and hung up the phone. Vincent took in my nervous appearance completely. He smiled faintly. "So, the person you like now is someone else." I lowered my head. I didn't explain Vincent's misunderstanding. Forget it. There was no need for any explanation anyway. Didn't I want to distance myself from him in this life? What's wrong with letting Vincent misunderstand like this? I raised my head again and gave him an obedient smile. "Yes, Vincent, I quite like him right now." As the words fell, not only was Vincent not left speechless by this sentence, he instead smiled. It was a genuinely pleased smile. With hindsight, I realized something, and suddenly widened my eyes. Just now I admitted that the person I like now is someone else. Doesn't that indirectly admit that I did indeed like Vincent before? What a jerk. Vincent slowly restrained his smile, looking at me with heavy eyes. "Although I don't know what attracts you about that kid, I believe that relying solely on hormones and dopamine won't last long. But this shouldn't be a reason for distancing yourself from your brother either. Lily, if you want to escape now, you can. But I have no intention of letting go." When did Vincent fall in love with Lily? He wasn't clear, only that by the time he realized it, he had already developed an extremely strong desire for control and possessiveness over this younger sister with whom he shared no blood relations. He had smooth sailing since childhood. His only setback was Lily. At the age of 17 or 18, while chatting with Victor, he acutely sensed that Victor was interested in Lily. At that time, he hadn't yet distinguished whether his feelings for Lily were more familial or romantic. He just subconsciously felt uncomfortable. But Victor didn't notice his abnormality and still kept Lily on his lips all day long. Gradually, he realized that Victor liked Lily very much. And Lily seemed to secretly like Victor too. But they both knew nothing of this. Despicable as he was, Vincent saw everything clearly, yet didn't take the initiative to pierce this window paper. But he also didn't plan to fight his younger brother for her. Out of the three of them, it was enough for two to be happy. From then on, Vincent planned to always stay by Lily's side in the capacity of Vincent. He thought it would last until Victor and Lily got together. But he never expected that after starting college, Lily would begin to distance herself from him. Lily was no longer dependent on him. This realization twisted Vincent's heart for a moment. Did she discover his dark thoughts? Carrying this speculation, Vincent went to find Lily. Who would have thought he'd see a chattering little boy by her side? So was Victor also going to be abandoned? For a brief moment, Vincent suddenly felt very grateful to that little brat. He couldn't fight with his younger brother, but he could surely fight with a little boy who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. His already suppressed filthy thoughts reached their peak at this moment. He thought, how could a child with little experience in the world possibly outsmart him? Vincent left. I stood there blankly. His body heat still lingered on my forehead. He kissed me? But Vincent wasn't like this before. Why now? My mind was in a mess, and an absurd thought slowly crept up. Could it be that Vincent has always liked me? It's like this in this life. Was it also like this in the previous life? But clearly he was thoroughly disgusted with me, and even imprisoned me on Whispering Pines Island. restricting my personal freedom, treating Tyler and me like pets he could come visit anytime.
Not letting mom and dad see me.
Even less letting Victor see me, making me solely dependent on him, keeping me by his side to torment. I blankly raised my hand and placed it on my forehead. The residual warmth on it had disappeared, but for some reason, I could still clearly feel the flutter of my heart the moment his lips landed. After breakfast the next day, I took the initiative to say I wanted to return to school. Victor was just about to speak when my mom glared at him. "Lily, then let your Vincent take you back?" My heart tightened, subconsciously thinking of the kiss from last night. But Vincent was the first to agree. "Yeah, let's go." I had to keep up with his pace. By the time I walked out, Vincent had already opened the passenger door for me. I sighed and got in. While driving, Vincent suddenly spoke. "That kid's background is unknown. I can't find any information on him." I instantly bristled with anger. "What right do you have to investigate him?" This was the first time I had spoken to Vincent in such a fierce tone. Vincent turned his head to watch me during the red light interval. His hands gripped the steering wheel deathly tight, veins bulging. Yet his eyes and expression were calm and rippleless, making one inexplicably nervous. I thought he would lose his temper. But Vincent just lightly withdrew his gaze and said calmly, "I'm just worried about your friends. I don't want you to get hurt." He paused and added at the end, "If you're unhappy, I won't do it again next time." Me. Oh. Something's wrong. Something is very wrong. Since when did Vincent become so easy to talk to? I was silent the whole way. It wasn't until we arrived at the school gates that Vincent broke the silence. "I'll come pick you up tonight." I didn't hear clearly. My attention was entirely on Tyler outside the window, watching him march over aggressively, looking like he was ready to start a fight with Vincent. I hurriedly got out of the car. The moment I closed the door, I said to Vincent, "You should leave quickly." But Vincent suddenly became not easy to talk to again. Not only did he not drive the car away, he even rolled down the window. I stood in front of Tyler, wanting to block the father and son's line of sight. But I overestimated my height. Even though the two people clearly didn't say anything, I still felt there were two intense gazes clashing in the air. In the end, it was Vincent who drove away first. Tyler said angrily, "Provoking me? This old man is definitely provoking me." I finally understood the saying that men remain boys until death. I coaxed Tyler like a child for most of the day before his anger finally subsided. "No, Mom. Don't pay any more attention to my dad. Quickly start a campus romance. Start your next spring. Isn't this the meaning of rebirth?" Me. "Ah?" Tyler felt iron shouldn't fail to become steel, disappointed. "This guy Vincent, he looks okay, but his character, never mind, I won't comment." A few seconds later, he muttered to himself angrily again. "I really don't get it. I time-traveled back to break you guys up. How come it feels like I've become a catalyst?" I burst into laughter and couldn't help but rub his head. "Tyler, Mom just wants to live a stable life now and also compensate you for your missing childhood. As for anything else, I really don't dare to wish for it." I accompanied Tyler to play for a day. In the evening, I once again saw Vincent's car at the school gate. Tyler was a step faster and linked his arm with mine. Vincent's eyes darkened, but he didn't act out. He walked to my other side and naturally clasped my wrist as well. His gaze seemingly unintentionally glanced at Tyler. "Let's go. Mom made your favorite signature barbecue ribs." Tyler glared at him. "Lily said she would eat deep dish pizza with me today." Vincent. "Another day." Tyler. "No. First come, first served." The two looked at me simultaneously. Me. What is going on here? I really wanted to speak up and interrupt. But Tyler suddenly said deadpan, "Old man, stop pestering Lily. I've seen plenty of your type. Strong desire for control, bad at expressing yourself. Eventually, you'll just push everyone around you away." Vincent narrowed his eyes. "How long have you known me? Do you understand me that well?" Tyler choked for a moment, then said stubbornly, "Anyway, I know that you are not suitable for her." Vincent stared at him for a few seconds, then suddenly smiled. Sarcasm and disdain hanging on the corners of his lips. He didn't disguise his contempt at all. Then who do you think is suitable for her? You? Tyler was choked again. He muttered to himself softly. Why is it still this annoying tone? It pisses me off. Vincent didn't hear it, but I heard it and couldn't help but let out a snicker. In the end, I still decided to return to Sterling Manor. After all, my 19th birthday was approaching. A few days before my birthday in my previous life, my biological parents, the Smiths from the trailer park, showed up at our door wanting to take me away. At that time, I refused. In this life, perhaps I can calmly accept leaving the Sterling family. Counting the days like this, it seems the time I have to accompany Mom and Dad is even less. In this final period of time, let me spend a little more time with them. Vincent has been very strange lately, appearing at the school gate every day, rain or shine. With perfectly valid reasons, just passing by, Mom and Dad told me to come, it was on the way. But the frequency was so high that I couldn't ignore it. If you say this is just business, then what about the frequent messages? I looked down at the unread messages on my phone, and suddenly remembered that Vincent almost never took the initiative to send messages before. Even if he did, it would definitely not be words of concern about what to wear and what to eat. But now, Vincent looked strange no matter how you looked at it. When I sat in his passenger seat once again, I saw a velvet box on the seat. Sensing my gaze, Vincent said nonchalantly, I thought you would like it, so I bought it. Me. Liking to buy things for people for no reason, this is one thing Vincent hasn't changed at all across both lifetimes. I got in the car and took a deep breath. Brother, you really don't need to buy me anything. Vincent brushed it off. Okay, communication failed. I couldn't help but recall his words from that night again. He said he had no intention of letting go. I lowered my head, my mind in a mess. In my previous life, I exhausted myself trying to get close to him, but ended up poorly. In this life, I turned over a new leaf, yet Vincent took the initiative instead. How ridiculous. I clenched my palms tightly and said coldly, Is brother chasing me? Vincent drove the car steadily and said calmly, Yeah, I thought it was very obvious. It seems it's still not enough. Me. This is still not enough? Then what more? Stand under my dorm building with roses publicly professing love like other male college students? I imagined that scene in my mind and couldn't help but get an armful of goosebumps. I let out a breath to calm my mood. I think brother, just like Victor, hasn't distinguished the boundary between familial love and romantic love. Vincent suddenly let out a light sneer. Do you think, at my age, I still wouldn't be able to tell the difference? I was left speechless, suddenly not knowing how to retort. Vincent suddenly reached over and pinched my cheek. If you want to call me brother again, that's fine too. But I will pretend I didn't hear it. I returned home with a complicated mood. Vincent followed behind to help carry my bag. My mom saw this and couldn't help but speak up. You have your younger brother traveling all over the country for business trips, while you're doing great, moving your workstation home entirely. Me? Vincent hasn't let Victor come back yet. No wonder I haven't seen him every time I came back. I even thought Victor was avoiding me. I turned back confusedly to look at Vincent. He actually averted his gaze, refusing to look at me. Inexplicably, I actually felt he was feeling guilty. After dinner, my dad suddenly called out to me. Lily, come to the study for a bit. Dad has something to tell you. My heart gave a fierce jump. It's here. In my previous life, it was also around this time that I accidentally overheard my parents' conversation. Panicked and lost, I was too afraid of being kicked out of the Sterling family, which was why I took the wrong path. But in this life, I won't be afraid anymore. During this time, I seriously plan my future path. Even if I am really kicked out, I can still rely on my own abilities to continue living. Perhaps because I had died once. I've taken a much lighter view on other things. Isn't life just like this? Diluting pain in the grand scheme of things and perceiving happiness in the trivial details. There's nothing wrong with being ordinary. I knocked on my dad's study door, walked in, and found Mom was there too. She asked me to sit down, and the two looked at each other, as if neither was willing to take the initiative to speak. I smiled. Dad, Mom, go ahead and speak. Ultimately, Mom spoke first. The content of her words was roughly the same as what I overheard in my previous life. The Smiths wanted me back to provide for their retirement. Lily, it's okay. Mom respects your thoughts. My heart skipped a beat. This sentence, I didn't hear it in my previous life. I snapped back to reality and pulled out a smile. Mom, I'd like to calm down first. Is that okay? My parents looked at each other. In the end, my dad nodded. All right, there's no rush on this matter. Take your time to think about it. No matter what, the Sterling family will always be your home. I walked out of the study and passed by Vincent's room. The light inside seemed to still be on. Remembering my mom saying he had been working from home lately, I couldn't help but sigh. Vincent, he seems to really like me. A wave of indescribable emotions surged in my heart. His kindness towards me was real in both the previous life and this one. But the imprisonment and coldness of the previous life were also real. He is controlling and paranoid. I had already experienced all of these in my previous life. I didn't want to repeat the same mistakes. If leaving the Sterling family would be an opportunity to get away from Vincent, then perhaps I really should grasp it. But what about Mom and Dad? They went through so much trouble to raise me for so many years. How could I abandon them just because of this? For the next few days, I deliberately avoided thinking about my biological parents, following a routine every day of going to class, eating, and keeping Tyler company. Vincent still appeared at the school gate, rain or shine, whereas Tyler was sarcastic every time. Yo, old man is here again? Is the company not busy? A man of your age should be busy with his career. Why are you circling around a college student every day? Vincent gripped the steering wheel and said calmly, not busy. Tyler, why aren't you playing by the rules? Vincent ignored him. I watched the father and son bicker beside them and couldn't help but curve my lips. But bitterness welled up in my heart again. If only it had been like this in the previous life. A family sitting together, even if it was just quietly having a meal. But life on the island in my previous life was just endless waiting and disappointment. I closed my eyes and suppressed those memories back to the bottom of my heart. Perhaps because I had been constantly keeping this matter in my heart these past few days. I've been a bit restless all along. When classes ended at noon, a scooter at school failed to brake and knocked me down. The second before I lost consciousness, lying on the ground. I only had one thought in my mind. Oh no, my low blood sugar acted up. When I woke up again, it was a stark white ceiling. Sitting next to me was Vincent with a face full of chill. Seeing me wake up, he visibly let out a sigh of relief. Before I could speak, a noisy voice came from the ward door first.
Mom.
How are you? My brain instantly crashed. Tyler ran in panting, completely failing to see a big person like Vincent. Mom, you scared me to death. My facial muscles were already completely stiff. I slowly turned my head and glanced at Vincent. The confusion and bewilderment in his eyes didn't seem faked. Tyler also widened his eyes and covered his mouth. I lay on the bed, drained of energy. I'm doomed. Vincent suddenly chuckled lightly. Instead of looking at Tyler, he leaned over to look at me. Lily, what did he just call you? Under the suppression of the bloodline, Vincent dragged Tyler out. I don't know what method he used, but when Tyler came back in, his face was crestfallen. Vincent didn't seem to have too much of a reaction. Or rather, he accepted it well. So, he is your son. Time traveled back from the future? Me? Yes. More than just him. I was also reborn back here. Vincent raised his eyebrows. Then who is his father? This kid refuses to tell me. Tyler bristled. My dad is dead. Dead, do you understand? Vincent shot him a cold look. Tyler was hovering between anger and restraint, his breath caught halfway. Seeing that neither of us planned to say anything, Vincent smiled. You have so much hostility towards me. Is it because I'm your dad? Me? Tyler. The smile on Vincent's face grew deeper. Tyler couldn't stand seeing Vincent so smug, and retorted. What are you so proud of? The meaning of my appearance here is to prevent you and Mom from getting together. You simply are not a good father or a good husband. Vincent quietly swept over my stiff expression. He retorted pointedly, "If I really wasn't a good father, how could I have raised such an innocent and naive, sweet fool like you?" "Me? How could you insult your own son like that?" Tyler exploded and looked at me angrily, looking a bit wronged. Vincent paused, as if thinking of something. "Since you said I'm dead, why don't you tell me the cause of my death? I'm quite curious." At the end, he added a sentence. "Don't tell me it was some terminal illness or something." Calculating from your age, I was only in my 40s back then. Saying I was hit by a car is more probable than dying from an illness. I suddenly realized.
Right.
Why did Tyler lie to me? I also frowned and looked at him. Being stared at by both of us for a moment, he uncharacteristically started to stammer. In the end, he was cornered with nowhere to run, and bit the bullet to admit. "Dying for love, you raised me to 18, threw all the company's affairs to me, and went to accompany Mom." I widened my eyes. Dying for love. In my previous life, after I died, Vincent raised our son alone and actually chose to die for love? Vincent fell silent. He suddenly got up, grabbed Tyler's arm, and walked out. Tyler had a look of panic. Hey, what do you want to do now? "I still hate you." Vincent remained unmoved. So he turned his pleading gaze towards me. "Mom, he's going to hit me. Save me, Mom." So noisy. How did a calm and steady person like Vincent raise such a loud and noisy child? An hour later, Vincent returned alone. I was stunned for a second and asked, "Where is he? Was he actually knocked out?" Vincent walked over quietly and poured me some water. "Went to buy you food."
Oh.
For a moment, only the two of us were left in the ward. I felt uncomfortable all over. Vincent suddenly spoke up. "Was I very bad to you in the previous life?" My heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, Vincent had found out everything clearly. I lowered my eyes, my fingertips gripping the edge of the blanket. I couldn't say he abused me. I could only say that those memories weren't very good. But they were inevitably mixed with countless tender moments. On one hand, I hated him for imprisoning me and neglecting me. On the other hand, I hoped he would come visit me and our child. But when I just heard that he died for love, I found my heart still aching uncontrollably. Vincent's gaze shifted. His face didn't change much, but his hand gripped the water glass tightly, knuckles turning white. "Why do you think I imprisoned you on the island?" I was stunned by the question. I had also thought about this question in my previous life. Was it because he despised me? Was it because I plotted against him, so it was deliberate revenge? But if that was really the case, why would he die for love after my death? Vincent spoke in a deep voice. "Because you were mine. From beginning to end, you have always been mine. I had no way of tolerating anyone taking you away, even Mom and Dad, even Victor." Something churned in Vincent's eyes as he guessed. "You must have thought of leaving me in the previous life, right?" I opened my mouth but couldn't speak. He was really too smart. After we got married in my previous life, I regretted it. I wanted to take Tyler and leave. But every time I was discovered by Vincent, and every time I was kept back with more intense methods. Later on, he simply locked me on the island. In name, it was for protection. In reality, everyone knew clearly what that meant. Vincent put down the water glass and leaned over slightly, his line of sight level with mine. "Lily, the me in the previous life made mistakes, I admit it, but you can't use the mistakes of the previous life to punish the me in this life." I stared at him blankly. Vincent looked serious, cupping my face. "Lily, I like you. Not the love Vincent has for a younger sister. Not familial love. Just the kind of liking where I want to marry you, keep you by my side, and have you belong only to me." I bit my lip, staying silent. The defenses in my heart were collapsing bit by bit. This was the first time across both lifetimes that Vincent had said such words in front of me. I looked up and met Vincent's deep eyes. Hiding within them was a trace of imperceptible nervousness. "I know I have a strong desire for control, but I will slowly change. Don't sentence me so quickly. Give me some more chances, okay?" "Okay? I don't know." I was a bit lost. Vincent wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes. I only then realized that I was crying. Lily, you still like me, don't you? Yes, I still liked Vincent. In psychology, there's a concept called the imprinting effect. It means that the intense and pure experience brought by the first time you like someone will be engraved in your memory, like a brand, forming an emotional template. In the future, the people you meet will involuntarily be compared against this template. When I was young, Vincent was both a teacher and a brother to me, carrying all my insecurities. To my younger self, Vincent played too many roles in my heart. So much so that when I realized I had fallen for him, my first reaction wasn't panic, but secret joy. Vincent gently wrapped his arm around my shoulder and sighed. Don't cry anymore, it's all my fault. I will make up for the grievances you've suffered, and I won't leave you alone ever again. Before his voice completely fell, a loud noise suddenly came from the door. Vincent and I looked over at the same time. Tyler stood at the door, carrying takeout bags. His face had, "I have nothing to live for," written all over it. You guys. Even his voice was trembling. I went out for an hour, just 1 hour, and you guys made up? I pushed Vincent away, with a bit of a guilty conscience. Vincent, on the other hand, was very steady, methodically withdrawing his arm, leaning back in his chair, and then gave Tyler a mild, indifferent look. A phone suddenly rang. It was Vincent's phone. He got up and went to the window to answer it. Victor's voice came through the phone. Brother, how has Lily been lately? She couldn't have really gotten together with that little brat, right? I saw Vincent curve the corners of his lips. Rest assured, she hasn't. Victor seemed to sigh in relief. Phew, you scared me to death. Immediately after, Vincent said, but she's together with me. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Tyler hugged my arm, watching in utter bewilderment. He pressed close to my ear and said, "Why is my dad such a jerk?" I nodded in agreement. Vincent hung up the phone and walked towards me. He pulled Tyler away from me. That's enough from you. Tyler glared at him. Are you jealous? Vincent didn't change his expression. Yeah. Tyler and Vincent kept me company in the ward. From time to time, the father and son would exchange a round of bickering. Ultimately, Tyler admitted defeat first and lay down on the neighboring bed to rest in exhaustion. Watching Vincent cut fruit for me, I suddenly thought of something. My biological parents. Vincent lifted his eyes and stuffed a piece of fruit into my mouth. Yeah, I already know they want money. Just give it to them. Giving birth is desire. Raising is grace. They didn't fulfill their responsibilities as parents, so they shouldn't think of getting anything from you. I sighed. It seems there's no need to struggle over whether to leave the Sterling family or not, given Vincent's personality. He probably wouldn't let me go anyway. Vincent suddenly smiled. How do you think I found out? I looked up in surprise. Mom and Dad told me. They couldn't bear to let you go, didn't want you to leave. They sounded nice, saying they respected you, but in reality, they had already hinted for me to step in and resolve it. Me. I knew Vincent's desire for control didn't arise out of nowhere. Vincent raised his hand to wipe the corner of my lips. His tone was uncharacteristically gentle. We all love you very much, even with all sorts of misunderstandings from the previous life. I believe they all originated from love. From beginning to end, Mom and Dad never thought of driving you away. My nose felt sore, and I looked at Tyler, who was sleeping soundly next to me. Then looked at Vincent, who was smiling at me with gentle eyes. The person I once sought but couldn't attain had finally said he liked me. The child I couldn't keep company before was now right by my side. In this life, perhaps I truly can look forward to a different ending.
Moral of the story: if your toxic ex, your future son, and a luxury car all show up at your college gate at the same time, babe, that's not destiny, that's a full Netflix subscription. Also, never trust a man named Vincent in a reincarnation story. They always come with trauma, manipulation, and at least one private island. Moral of the story: work on your grades, not on fixing red flag billionaires. The only thing you should be raising is your GPA, not a child from the future.